So in this review, we're reviewing a fragrance that at least I've never heard before, Golden Wood Parfum from the Harmonist. So this is a unisex fragrance, relatively modern, from 2020, and apparently it's pretty strong, that's what I've heard, but I'll give it a try. It has some interesting notes as well. So right off the bat, yeah, it reminds me a little bit of something, but I don't know what. Something kind of a little bit vintage, but the opening is very citrusy. It has, actually it has 3 notes and they're all citrus: mandarin orange, bitter orange, and bergamot. So pretty much all those are very fresh right off the bat. Really that burst of citrus that you would expect from those notes. Very, I guess, kind of summery, but it quickly becomes very warm right after the opening. So what I like also is that there's a certain, not a spice, but like a really kind of rugged woodsiness that immediately counteracts the citrus. But the citrus actually also, it's there for a burst and then it quickly kind of dissipates. Then it goes into the middle notes, which are pretty unique. It has beeswax, pear, and guaiac wood. So I've never seen beeswax in a fragrance before, and I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to smell like, but you know, I don't know if I can specifically smell the beeswax. But the pear, you definitely get, it adds a certain sweetness and also a crispness, kind of like an apple note, but a little bit sweeter. Then the guaiac wood as well, that adds a certain warmth and woodsiness to it. Then the base notes are relatively heavy. You have tonka bean, oak, and a note that I've never heard before called cabueva. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it's a type of wood note, and apparently it's kind of like a delicate woodsiness with a little bit of even a fruity scent to it. So this is an interesting one to smell just because it has a lot of notes that I think most people are probably unfamiliar with. So it's a very kind of surprising scent. What I get from this is a blend between kind of a dry woodsiness and a little bit of sweetness, and then some distant fruit notes. It vaguely, distantly reminds me of Chanel No. 5, because Chanel No. 5 has kind of similar notes, those wood notes, a little bit of this dry muskiness, but also a few sweet notes. So it's kind of similar to that, but less floral because there's no florals in this. But this is kind of dry and breezy, I would say. It's very natural smelling. Not quite foresty in the traditional way. It's more like a dry forest, or like you're in a desert and then you drive into the forest. It's kind of like a weird blend of those different notes. But then there's also something a little bit refreshing. I assume it's the citrus notes still kind of sticking around. It adds a little bit of this burst of kind of freshness in the background, which is quite nice. And then there's that warmth, which is almost spicy, but not really, which comes from some of those wood notes and the tonka bean. And overall, this is just an interesting kind of fragrance, again, because it has many unique notes. But the longevity and projection that this has. Now, this is a little bit on the weaker side of what I was expecting, but it's definitely more of a moderate fragrance. The projection is, you know, more in your immediate vicinity, maybe not completely an intimate fragrance, but, you know, it's not going to spread too far. Again, more of a, if someone's right next to you, they'll smell it, but if they're too far away, you know, it doesn't go that far. Now the longevity, again, this is also pretty moderate. I don't see this lasting more than maybe 5 hours, maybe 6, but I think 5 is probably what you could expect from this on average. But and in terms of unisex, it's definitely, unisex. It just has a very natural smell. Some of the fruit notes, the wood notes, there's nothing weird or cloying or too much about this particular fragrance. And it is just kind of nice to wear. Again, it kind of blends that distant, refreshing nature with a more rugged warmth from the wood notes and the tonka bean and things like that. So it is a nice kind of blend of those two worlds. And in terms of when and where to wear it, I would say this is a very, very versatile type of fragrance. I can't really think of any particular time when this would, when you wouldn't want to wear this, because it's versatile enough for all seasons, all temperatures. It's not too warm or too cold. And it doesn't feel like it should be reserved for the daytime or the evening. It can move around, it's adaptable. Just kind of a good all-around type of fragrance. So definitely, I would say, if you're looking for something that smells very unique, you want, some unique notes, and you want to smell different from everybody else, this one from the Harmonist Golden Wood, it's definitely a good option for both men and women. And it's natural smelling. It has a nice warmth to it, but it has a little bit of a crispness to it as well. And I think in general it's a pretty likable fragrance. There's nothing strange or particular about it that would put people off. It's kind of one of those fragrances that are very well-rounded, well-developed, kind of designed to be a people pleaser, but at the same time more of a niche people pleaser. So again, a really good option if you want something off the beaten path, you want something more unique than your mainstream fragrances, and it's gonna make a good first impression, and that sort of thing. And it's just pleasant, and I kind of like that it has a little bit of an old school vibe, kind of a little bit reminiscent of Chanel No. 5, but less musky and less floral, But anyway, that is pretty much my review of Golden Wood from the Harmonist. If you liked this video and found it helpful, of course you can always leave a like, maybe subscribe, and I make videos like these throughout the week, so stick around for those.